money.
Well, I have one consistent theme every time we have G. Edward Griffin on our program, as we do today, and that is I always wish we had more time, a couple of more hours to talk to him. But you can go to Freedom Force International. You can read his books. You can go watch him, deliver his lectures, his public speaking events. And there's just never enough of you, Ed. That's my only complaint. We need to clone you and have about 10 more of you.
Well, you're very kind, Jack. Thank you.
You're very kind, and you have a great way about you that I think, really helps this stuff go down. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, Ed, and you're just such a nice man on top of everything else that you're very easy to listen to. Let me let you go back to your life raft analogy.
Yeah, okay. I'll get back into that leaking life raft there in the middle of the ocean. We were talking about the nature of apathy and what causes it, and I came up with this understanding years ago that if we were in this life raft and we looked over the edge and we saw a little stream of bubbles coming up around the edge of it, we'd realize that there was a leak in the raft. Now, this is potentially fatal, and that raft is losing air. So what do? Well, there's nothing we can do, so we would just lie there and sink. We would be the picture of apathy. We would do nothing. But now, if we change the scenario and we look around in the life raft and we see an air pump fastened to the inside and a place to screw it in, now all of a sudden we've got this air pump in our hands, and we've got it screwed into the little valve, and we're pumping away for all we're worth, for hours and hours and hours, if not days, to replace those air bubbles. And all of a sudden, we're activism. We're Mr. Activism, the ultimate. And the only difference between those two scenarios is that in the first case, there was nothing we could do. In the second place, there was at least something we could do, and so we were doing it. And I realized that the reason people were so apathetic, or appeared to be, when I was talking to them about all the things that were wrong in the world, is because I had done such a good job of convincing them that there was nothing they could do about it, that it was too late. So naturally, if there's nothing they can do about it, they'll just lie there and sink.
Right.
So I resolved from that date forward to try, at least whenever I'm talking about these issues, to focus as well on the things that can be done. Now, that makes a big difference. So that's what we're trying to do with Freedom Force International. We have a plan. We've got a strategy. And we know it'll work. It's just a question of getting enough people to do it, and we have enough time to implement it. That's all.
And people can join. They can get your email alerts. And this is the best part about Freedom Force International. You can find other people who can work with you or like-minded. Not that we have to surround ourselves with people who believe what we believe, but they can work with you. And there is some solitude, isn't there, Ed, in knowing that you're not by yourself. There's someone that thinks like you do, that can work with you. And that is in every city, not just in the United States, but all around the world, because it is an international movement. People can just go there, sign up, and find out who's in their area who might want to work with them to expose some of these evils.
Yeah, it's a great morale factor to know that you're not alone. And that's one of the values of Freedom Force, is to participate in a local network where you can meet eye to eye with people of like mind. But more than just meeting and talking and, eating, meeting, and retreating, as they used to say, we ask our people to get together and to assist each other to gain influence in the important organizations, or what we call the power centers of society. To go into politics, for example, to go into the media centers, to try and put on meetings for other people, to go into organizations where people are already there for whatever reasons, and become influential in those power centers. That's how our collectivist opponents have taken over this country.
Right.
And while we sit around wringing our hands and saying, oh, my goodness, what are we going to do? Well, we just do the same thing they did.
Well, I mean, if it works for them, it can work for us.
Of course.
We're, of course, constrained by our values, our morals, and they are constrained by each of them being untrustworthy and stabbing each other in the back. So,
yeah,
right. There's advantages here to both sides. FreedomForceInternational.org. Go over there, read the Creed of Freedom. I think you should start with that, and then sign up as a member. I don't think there's some dues, but it's nothing that's going to set people back more than a movie this weekend or something, right, Ed?
Well, that's right. And if people can't afford the modest dues, they can come in as a free member. It's not essential that you send in money. The only purpose of the money is to keep the organization growing and we have a lot of things we want to do that require money. But if people can't afford it, come in anyway. But you don't have to send money in.
Fair to say that the Council on Foreign Relations doesn't like you guys very much.
No, they don't really like us. Well, I'd like to say that, I'd like to think at least that we are the constructive, or will become the constructive opposite of the Council on Foreign Relations. I'm glad you brought that up because, you see, those people don't do anything as an organization. The Council on Foreign Relations itself is kind of a directorate. It's a network of people who do things in the organizations which they dominate, and that is more or less the structure that we're trying to create.
Yeah. You know, one of the things I often think about, and it kind of goes back to your life raft analogy, Ed, is the misdirected activism of environmentalists and anti-war types. I mean, you really do have to understand a few simple principles, and the fact that the banking cartels, the central bankers around the world, going all the way up to the Bank of International Settlements, their lead chapter, I guess, they fund both sides of the war. So if you're anti-war, you have to be anti-Federal Reserve, don't you?
Well, I would think so, yes. Because the modern wars, at least, Jack, as you know, would be impossible without the kind of funding that is available through central banking.
Why is it that they don't latch on to this, Ed? I know that, the people in the Ron Paul Revolution are probably more anti-war than anyone else in this country, no matter who they say they are. Our friends like Cindy Sheehan, they understand all this stuff. But the people, the controlled opposition, so to speak, they just don't really use this as an element to unmask the monster.
Well, you said the magic word anti-war. I don't think that's really the issue. I don't know of anybody that is just anti-war, end of discussion.
Pro-peace, maybe that's better.
Or even that, if somebody breaks into your house and is threatening to kill you and your family, you're not a pacifist for the most part. And so there is, in theory at least, there's plenty of justification for war if it's defensive.